Okay, I am live once again. Very sorry about that. Tried it before, and of course, I was muted. I don't know what is going on with my phone, but sometimes, much to my annoyance, my phone gets muted. I know I have to. Um, I know that one thing I have to do at some point is update my phone. So maybe that's what's going on. However, let's give it a few minutes. Let's wait to see who joins. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear it. And I hope everybody is going to have an excellent morning. It's 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, at least for me. But my audience are a bunch of night owls like I am. But let's wait. Let's see who joins. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear them. And if you can't hear me on this one, then I got nothing. I'll have to just wait and see. But for now, let's chat about Freemasonry. Let's just wait to see who joins, who jumps in the chat to say hello. Just waiting and hanging out. Here to chat about Freemasonry. These 1 a.m. streams. I don't have anything specific to talk about. I basically just wait to see who joins. Fraternal greetings, Courtney. Thank you, as always, for being here, and I hope that you are doing well. Let me know how your night is going. It's great to see you. I hope that you and your family are doing well. Are you looking forward to our 24-hour live stream? I'm hoping you are. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if there are, I already know a couple of topics I'm going to discuss, but that doesn't mean there aren't more. So I'm always looking for questions or for suggestions. If there's anything that you want to see me discuss, please let me know. Nice. Anything in particular, Courtney, that you want me to discuss? Let me know. And by all means, don't forget to, I know you do already, but don't forget to invite your brethren from your lodge to join as well. That would be awesome. Let's give it a bit of time. Let's wait to see who jumps on, if anybody. And as always, chatting about Freemasonry. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts? By the way, I want to give a huge shout out to my neighbor who cooked me some delicious Christmas holiday cookies. Thank you so much for that. It is much, much appreciated. Welcome. If you're just joining us, jump in the chat, say hello. Here to chat about Freemasonry. I do 2 streams, Monday through Fridays, 1 a.m. and 1 p.m., and we talk about Freemasonry. So any thoughts you have on it, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Let's give it a bit of time. Let's wait to see who jumps in the chat to say hello. I don't have any topics for the 1 a.m. streams. 1 a.m. Eastern streams. I basically just hang out and wait to see who wants to talk. 1 p.m., I tend to have more specific, talking points. Earlier today, we talked about Masonic or scams in general, how to spot them, especially during this holiday season, how to be very careful with them or of them. So let's give it a bit more time and let's wait to see who joins. And I also need to give a huge shout out to my neighbor, again, who baked me a whole bunch of Christmas cookies for a holiday contest that I'm taking part in. So let's wait to see who joins and who jumps in the chat. I know that this can look a little bit ugly on my webcam. My cell phone, which has the good camera, decided not to work. So, of course, that happens to be the case, right? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in the chat to say hello and any thoughts you have on Freemasonry. Hit the heart button, etc., etc. And in the meantime, let's give it a bit of time and let's see who joins. That is very true. The Orders of Freemasonry would be a great topic. Actually, a lot of people have expressed an interest in learning more about Freemasonry in the ancients versus moderns, that whole time period, which I think would be actually really cool to discuss and to learn more about, especially because when it comes to the ancients versus the moderns, um, it's really fascinating. And it kind of deals a lot with the origins of Freemasonry in general, right? What those origins are, where we come from. So 100%, I think that would be really fun to explore. Um, and yeah, I agree with that 100%. We're just going to wait. We're going to see who jumps on, who wants to say hello for these 1 a.m. streams. Again, no specific topics, just hanging out. My cat's meowing about something, but I can't hear what it is. Just waiting to see who joins. Wants to chat about Freemasonry? I'll give it a bit of time. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. I've mentioned a few times, but I do have some really exciting things coming up. I have a trip to Colombia next week. I have a 24-hour live stream on the 21st. I have a trip to Chicago. It's going to be a blast, and I cannot wait. Nice. I don't know how long this will be, Courtney, so I'll probably just do this stream for about half an hour or so. Viking Fitness, welcome. 322 Skull and Bones. I do not know what that means, Viking Fitness. Well, yeah, Matt, I can just call you Matzabal. I'm going to call you Matt for now. Yeah, King Solomon is a very important figure within Freemasonry. Right. It makes sense because Freemasonry, having evolved from stonemasons, certainly from a historical perspective, we're going to care about famous examples of stone masonry, whether mythological or otherwise. And in this case, that would be stonemason, King Solomon's Temple. So yeah, he is considered important within Freemasonry. Yes, King Chaser, I am a Freemason. I've been a Freemason since 2007. I started this channel to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. By the way, I hope that you will hit the like button and hit the subscribe button to everybody watching this. I do these streams to talk about Freemasonry and answer questions. When it's a 1 a.m. Eastern stream, I don't have any specific topics. Rather, I just hang out and chat with people about whatever they want to talk about, and any questions they may have for me. 1 p.m., I tend to have more specific topics. So let's give it a bit more time and let's see who joins. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, consider a super chat. But yes, King Solomon is an important figure within Freemasonry, primarily within the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry, especially I would say the second and the third, somewhat depending on the ritual with which you're working. Emulation ritual and York, he's both very important in. So yeah. Intrinsic truth. Well, they have a few. Welcome, intrinsic truths. By the way, I think you're new to the stream. There's a few different branches of Freemasonry for women. There's Eastern Star, which is throughout the United States, and that's for men and women. Traditionally, the women had to be related to a Mason somehow, so like daughter, sister, mother. Though in many cases, that requirement is no longer present. Excuse me. There's also Rainbow and Job Daughters. Those are youth groups for young women. And then there is Order of Women Freemasons, which does, to my knowledge, exist in some places in the United States. It exists in Ontario. It exists in United Kingdom. And that is also present. And there's also co-masonry. So Freemasonry is not exclusively for men, despite what some people will say. Shriners, so that you don't want to think about it in terms of high ranking. That's not the right term, King Chaser. I wouldn't use the term high ranking, but Shriners are Masons. The Shrine is an appendant body of Freemasonry. So if you are a Freemason, you can choose to become a Shriner, if that makes any sense. Do you have to believe in a higher power? So to be a Freemason, Viking Fitness, you need to believe in a supreme being. The nature of that supreme being is up to you. I would say if you're concerned about that, the best thing to do is talk to a local Masonic lodge and explain your beliefs. There's also something called liberal Freemasonry, which exists primarily in Europe, sometimes in South America as well, where you can join if you're agnostic, but that is not recognized by like my jurisdiction, for example. So the way I always say it, though, is the term like to somebody who's religious, they would probably consider me to be an atheist or at least agnostic. But I believe in a supreme being, and my basis and the way I define supreme being, I became a Freemason, right? Usually, supreme being is defined relatively liberally. But if you're concerned, the best thing to do is talk to a Masonic lodge and explain your beliefs and go from there. That's awesome. That grandpa was a Mason. My grandfather was a Mason. Both of my grandfathers were Masons, in fact, as is my father. Sorry, intrinsic truths. I'm not sure what you mean by the ones in US. Do they have the same beliefs? Every Freemason will have his own beliefs when it comes to religion, for example. There are Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh. There are many different religious beliefs represented within Freemasonry. I think that's one of the greatest qualities of Freemasonry, the fact it welcomes men of so many different beliefs. Daniel says 33. Hey, 33 is a degree in the Scottish Rite, often considered a very prestigious degree. Well, so when I think a lot of people, intrinsic truths, get the degrees a little bit messed up in terms of they don't understand them. There are 3 main degrees within Freemasonry: first, second, and third degree. once you get your third degree in Freemasonry, you can kind of think about that like graduating school. Like you've graduated, you are equal to everybody else who's graduated, right? You're as high as you can go. Beyond that, there are appendant bodies, Scottish Rite, York Rite, Shrine. Those have their own degree. So, for example, I'm 18th degree Scottish Rite, but that doesn't mean I'm, 15 degrees higher or more important than a third degree Mason. I'm equal to the third degree Mason. The 18th degree is kind of like an honorific. It means I've advanced in Scottish Rite, but it doesn't mean I'm special as it relates to like more important. So the degrees that are most important and that a Mason should concern themselves with when they're joining is the first three degrees: entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master Mason. It's about GPS. Well, I mean, Freemasonry is about a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It depends on why they're joining. Some are joining for family connections, some are joining to meet new people, some are joining to learn more about Freemasonry or history. It really just depends. Everybody has their own reasons for joining. It depends who you ask. There are approximately 850,000 Freemasons in the United States, and each one of those have their own opinions about Jesus. Freemasonry is not a religion, right? And so we have many members who maybe believe in Jesus or a Christian, including Catholic, Protestant, whatever it might be, non-denominational. We have also many Masons who are Muslim, many Masons who are Jewish, many Masons who are Hindu, Sikh. Right? Freemasonry is not a religion. It encourages men to be faithful to their religious beliefs, but it's not meant to be a substitute or a replacement for a person's religious beliefs. Well, I mean, what I'll say, Matt, is I've never heard of that specifically, but Freemasonry, like almost every other organization, has borrowed from many different ideas and philosophies and belief systems. Christianity, Judaism, the Muslim faith with the shrine, for example, or Islam, Stoic philosophy, Kabbalah, Chinese mythology, interestingly enough, uh, Egyptian mysticism. It kind of borrowed from a lot of different elements as it was developing its ceremonies. Primarily, though, the concepts from which it borrowed most heavily were those of stone masons from the Middle Ages. Stone masonry, the idea of working with stone tools, things of that nature, squares, levels. Those are the concepts that Freemason most heavily borrowed from. No, you're no worries at all. Um, I don't know enough about Ball to say, but if it's a supreme being, I would think so. Intrinsic truths, Matt, Danielle, I hope you'll hit the like button and I hope you'll hit the subscribe button. That would be very much appreciated. I very much appreciate your questions. I hope I'm answering them well. If I'm not, let me know and I'll try again. But yeah, there is no specific Masonic belief about Jesus. Rather, every Mason has his own beliefs about not just Jesus, but any religious figure or religious belief. And also, I hope you'll consider doing a super chat. Just 99 cents. It helps people find the channel. It shows interest in the channel. So, uh, it can be. It has to, we would call it a volume of the sacred law. Like by default, in a lot of jurisdictions, it's a Bible. However, I've been to meetings where it's been a Quran, where it's been a Torah. I've been to meetings where it's actually been an eagle feather in honor of indigenous brethren. It depends on the jurisdiction you're in. In some cases, kind of the predominant belief, maybe of that community. But there has to be volume of the sacred law of some sort. By default, very often, brethren will use Bibles. So just because, even like for me personally, I wouldn't necessarily call myself Christian per se, However, if I had to pick a religion to which I'm most closely aligned or I'm knowledgeable of, it would be Christianity. And in a lot of jurisdictions, Christianity is kind of the, if not what they believe per se, it's kind of the culture. It's in the same way a lot of times people going to court, if they're testifying, they will choose to swear on a Bible because it's the holy book or the volume of the sacred law with which they are the most familiar. Um, but again, I think the beautiful thing about Freemasonry is that it is so welcoming of, the religious tolerance aspect of Freemasonry. I think is one of the greatest aspects of it by far. One topic, gosh, that's so tough. Do you mean one topic that I would like to discuss, or one topic that I've discussed, but I wish others were discussing? Because if it's the latter, it's um, membership engagement. If it's the former, I mean, I'm fascinated by Freemasonry in right now, especially in Africa. I would like to learn more about it there because it's not something I talk a lot about. So that is something I think would be really fun to learn more about. And thank you everybody for joining. This is going to be a shorter stream because I've got to get ready for tomorrow. I've got a busy few days ahead of me, that's for sure. It's going to be a very exhausting few days, but that's all right. Exhausting means fun, right? It means I got a lot on the go, including tomorrow, a Christmas cookie contest. So we'll see who wins. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts on Freemasonry. It's both, Matt. There are Masonic ceremonies, but also many times there's meetings to discuss topics. It could be Masonic history. Oftentimes it's discussions about the building, or maybe brethren who are sick who need assistance. All the whether you're a Masonic lodge or a bowling league, there's always going to be administrative tasks related to your organization that you are responsible for. And so definitely there's meetings on that. And then lodges may set aside time to study Masonic ritual, study Freemasonry, education, whatever it might be. So there's that as well. So it really just depends on the brethren and their engagements. But usually there will be 2 meetings a month, very often, though not always. One meeting will be administrative meeting where, again, it's all of the administrative tasks necessary to maintain any type of organization. And another meeting where it is a ceremonial meeting where they are initiating a new brother or bringing him through the degrees. Well, certainly Egypt, that is the case, without question, right? Egypt. I mean, in the shrine, Morocco is very important. Well, I'm glad it sounds cool. I mean, I hope that you'll hit the like and subscribe button so you can learn more about these cool topics. It depends where you're at, right? There is no single grand anything in Freemasonry, Viking fitness, right? One of the greatest mistakes of Freemasonry is, or not, sorry, greatest misconceptions, I should say, that people have is that they think there's kind of one leader globally. There's not. Even within even within Scottish Rite, there's a northern jurisdiction, a southern jurisdiction. Canada has its own jurisdiction. There's some in Europe, and they all have different people in charge. I can't remember the name of the person from Canada who's in charge of Scottish Rite off the top of my head, though I have met him before. But one thing you need to be very careful of within Freemasonry is people who say that there is a single that there's a single governing body globally, right? Even, hold on just 1 second. So, right, there's not a single answer to that question. 33rds, there are many different 33rd degree Masons. And you also want to be careful that you're not reading too much into Albert Pike, because there's different rituals within Scottish Rite as well, depending on the jurisdiction you are in. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to wait to see who else joins. Please take a moment, hit the like button and the subscribe button. Let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. This is going to be a short stream. These streams I do at 1 a.m. I just hang out and wait to see who joins and any topics that they want to discuss. 1 p.m., which I'll be back on at 1 p.m., I tend to have more specific streams or more specific topics. Like today's topic, avoiding scams. So, yes, I think that's a really good way to put it, Courtney. I think you're absolutely right. They spoke about Freemasonry from their own thoughts, not from the thoughts of others. And you need to be really careful that you don't over emphasize what they think, or you don't assume that their thoughts are applicable to everybody. Really, it's a book more of philosophy than of actual Masonic ritual. Welcome. If you're just joining us, thank you for being here. Please take a moment, hit that like button and subscribe button. I'm just hanging out chatting about Freemasonry. So any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, please let me know. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. The 1 a.m. streams, 1 a.m. Eastern, I should say, I just hang out, wait to see who jumps in the chat and who wants to say hello. So let's give it a bit more time. And like I said, wait to see if anyone wants to jump in the chat with anything. If not, I'll be back on in about 12 hours. Giving it a few minutes. I'm not seeing anybody else in the chat right now, so let's give it a couple more just to see if anybody jumps in the chat to say hello. Otherwise, both good questions. Well, I mean, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that intrinsic truths. Like, we assign our own meanings to symbols. So, like, for example, again, most of our symbols, most of our concepts are being borrowed, stolen. You can pick your term. Let's say adopted, right? Most of our symbols are adopted from stone masonry. So, for example, these square and compasses, right, which is like the square and compasses, those are Masonic tools um, from stonemasons. The square and compasses were tools that they used when working with stone, when shaping stone, right? We take them and we apply them in a metaphorical sense to ourselves, right? The square kind of helps us understand moral or right, kind of just actions. The compasses, limits of good and evil, right and wrong, that type of thing. So the square and compass have always been important tools, important symbols around the world. It actually pops up in Chinese mythology, but we kind of have our own interpretations of them based primarily on stone masonry. Do you think? No, I don't think so, Matt. I think ultimately what led to the formation of early Masonic lodges was what leads to the formation of any group, the desire of man to belong to something. And the success that stonemason guilds had, encouraging non stonemasons to join. It wasn't really any type of religious or philosophical desire. It was a very practical desire of men wanting to belong to something and looking for something to which they could not create, but rather join and be part of. And stone Masonic guilds provide an opportunity for that. Well, it depends, Viking Fitness, on your jurisdiction, right? Because in Ontario, my jurisdiction, we tend not to have the checkerboard floors per se. What we have is what's often called a mosaic pavement. And one of my favorite lessons within Freemasonry is the mosaic pavement. It's the idea of the uncertainty of life and the uncertainty of all things um, on this planet. Today, you can be, doing really, really well and things are going great. Tomorrow, it can all fall apart, and teaching us not to get too excited when things are going well, nor to get too despondent when things are going poorly, but rather to maintain calm in the face of both triumph and tragedy, which is a lesson I really love and one lesson I need more of, to be honest. In the States, York ritual, the black and white floor tends to symbolize good and evil, duality, if you want to put it that way, the duality of life, of positive and negative, good and evil, that type of thing, tends to be what it refers to. Well, no, that's very true. Intrinsic truths, uh, like pyramids have symbolized different things throughout history, yin and yang. Like that's definitely the case. I think. I mean, one thing I try to talk about within Freemasonry, within this channel, I should say, is our Masonic symbols and the way that these symbols um, have changed over time. Because at the end of the day, I think people need to understand, right? Despite the conspiracy theories, Freemasonry does not have access to hidden knowledge or secret truths. Ultimately, we are taking from the same well and the same source as everyone else when it comes to developing our rituals, our symbols. We're all taken from the same well. So the square and compasses have been important symbols throughout history. They've been important symbols to Chinese mythology, important symbols to stonemasons, other craftsmen. We just use them as well. Same thing with pyramids, same thing with King Solomon's Temple. Like, same thing with prime numbers. 3, 5, and 7 are important numbers in Freemasonry. 7 has been an incredibly important number throughout history as a prime number. So it's good to remember that our symbols are not unique to us, that many different groups, organizations, cultures have used them, and being mindful of that, I think, is very important. Well, the Nigerian nightmare, I don't want to fight with nobody. I don't want to rumble with nobody. We're all friends. I actually know a few Knights of Columbus. They're good dudes. They're good people. And just because you're a Knight of Columbus, it doesn't mean you can't hit the like button, and it doesn't mean you can't hit the subscribe button. Um, It would be much appreciated. Like, again, even a lot of Freemasons don't know that the squared compasses were incredibly important to Fuxi and Nuwa. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean the number? Usually 5, when we think of 5 within Freemasonry, certainly in emulation, we think of the 5 orders of architecture: Ionic, Doric, Corinthian, Tuscan, Composite. Because again, Freemasonry, stonemasonry, right? A big part of that is architecture. So, and what is the major, elements of architecture? Stone pillars: Ionic, Doric, Corinthian, whatever it might be. So usually that's what 5 stands for. It's very often we think of. Also, though, it's an important part of 3, 4, 5, an important part of Euclid's 47th problem, right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared, otherwise known as 3 squared, 4 squared, and 5 squared. I hope not, Nigerian Nightmare, because then I'm getting kicked out. Because I can't build anything with stone, nor with wood, nor with brick, nor with mud. I just can't build anything. It's not my skill by any means. So yeah, so I hope that's not the case. Sorry, Nigerian. I'm happy being a Freemason. Plus, I'm not Catholic, so I have no issue with the Knights of Columbus, though. I think every Knight of Columbus I've met or known, very good dude, and very, happy to call a friend. Not really, not that I've ever seen. Now, I don't know every Masonic ceremony and every Masonic ritual, but of all of them I've seen, I've never heard or seen a third eye brought up. To my knowledge, it's not. Um, well, the offer is much appreciated, Nigerian Nightmare, but I think I'm all set. Thank you, though, for the offer. One man's goofy is another man's meaningful. Everything, what I'll say is it's very hard. I can't speak to what you saw. I would always be very hesitant, though, because not everything you see online is true. Um, Everything has a purpose. Everything has a meaning. A lot of it dates back to our stone mason forefathers. So, for example, a lot of people wonder why we wear aprons. Well, it's to connect us to the roots of our order, which is stonemasons. Stonemasons were craftsmen, they were journeymen, they were tradesmen. They wore aprons and smocks to protect their garments while they were working. And we in Freemasonry wear them in recognition and respect of our ancient Masonic brethren, right? Everything has a meaning. Everything has a symbol behind it. A lot of it dating back to our stonemasons, and also to provide some moral teachings as well. But a lot of things seem goofy from the outside looking in. The all-seeing eye, it's yeah. I mean, I don't know if the all-seeing eye. Um, well, there is Nigerian Nightmare. There is widow's sons. There is the all-seeing eye. I don't know if that's the third eye or not, but that's again a very common symbol in many different groups and cultures and organizations and philosophies. And ultimately, what it references is the idea of um, kind of whatever you do in life, there's something watching you, and you need to be respectful of it and care for it. That type of thing. Do I think our subconscious? I think so. I think our subconscious. I mean, that's a hard question to answer. Actually, intrinsic truths. I think it's not that our subconscious recognizes the symbols, but it recognizes the patterns contained within the symbols. So it recognizes and responds to things like symmetry, order, beauty, right? There's certain things that make a symbol, a painting, a drawing beautiful. It responds to that. Well, I mean, in some ways, you're right, Viking Fitness. It was stonemasons. I mean, it was a lot of slaves as well. And, if you're the pharaoh and you have enough power, you can just throw millions of people at a problem and spend all the money and take all the time. Um, but yeah, stonemasonry, shaping and connecting stones for human enjoyment or human use, whether it be a wall, a house, a castle. That is stonemasonry. And the Egyptian pyramids are a great example of stonemasonry, and are stonemason for kind of forerunners. Um, there's actually, I remember reading somewhere an archaeological report that said they had found certain skeletal remains around the pyramids that were in better health, like the bones were stronger, the teeth were in better condition than others. And they assumed those skeletons belonged to stonemasons who were overseeing the work and therefore had a better access to better food and better nutrition than the slaves who were kind of lower on the ladder. Um, Fear is a liar. I mean, I do think fear is a liar, intrinsic truths. I think very often, one of my favorite quotes is, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," which I think is absolutely true. Um, Very often, the thing we're most afraid of is something we don't need to worry about at all. Um, I hope we're not choosing chaos. I think one of the best things about Freemasonry, the things I love about it, is the fact that I don't believe that Freemasonry chooses chaos. I think it celebrates beauty and order and symmetry in the world. Um, but that's again a stonemasonry thing, right? That's a building thing, recognizing all of the beautiful things in the world and how stonemasons can create them, right? Through work and effort and practice. But I do think I would agree with that. No fear. No fear is a very good um no fear is a very, very good motto, I think. I have no idea what Project Bluebeam is, but what is coming soon, Was, is that you can hit the like button and you can hit the subscribe button. What is the reason for sorry, I'm gonna call you Blair? I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by sacrifices. There is no real sacrifice. I mean, within Freemason, you're sacrificing your time, without a doubt. If you're active, you're sacrificing your time to attend meetings, to help brothers, whatever it might be. But beyond that, there's no sacrifices per se. Yes, I'm not sure to what you're referring. The Widow's Son's patch is awesome. But the way, Widow's Son is in many cases not a recognized Masonic body. Just for the record, in some places it is, in some places it isn't. Um, these little Masons who have their pathetic dinners. First of all, our dinners are delicious. WASS. So WAS. So don't call it pathetic unless you've had one of the dinners. They're quite good. Um, Depends on jurisdiction as well. The real 33rd degree Masons, one of those. We got one of those in the stream. Welcome, WASS. I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. So here's what I always say to that. To that kind of idea of the real ones. Yes, I can't pronounce. Yes, 420. Freemasonry welcomes men of all different races, as well as beliefs, languages, cultures, backgrounds. One of the best parts of Freemasonry is its welcoming attitude. So I've been a Mason since 2007, so about 20 years. I'm an 18th degree Scottish Rite Mason. I've been a Worshipful Master several times. Um, I currently Worshipful Master. I've been to over 1,000 Masonic events in North America, South America, Asia, and Europe. I'm actually going to be going to South America soon. My question has always been, if it was the case that there is something hidden from me, I could understand if it was the case where, I had to advise people in advance I was showing up for meetings, or I couldn't sit with 33rds, or I couldn't attend Scottish Rite events. But the fact I could do all of those things and still take part in Freemasonry and not seen anything that would indicate that there's anything nefarious going on, I would hope that my evidence and my experiences would count for something. Rogue Maximus, please hit like and subscribe. So Freemasonry directly came from stone mason guilds in the 15th and 16th centuries. However, when we were developing our ceremonies and our rituals, many of our symbols and rituals we borrowed from Egypt for a lot of different reasons. Primarily because within Freemasonry, there was a lot of just men who really loved ancient Egypt. It was a time when ancient Egypt was very popular. It was a time of, explorers traveling to Egypt and, King Tut's tomb and all that type of stuff. And so a lot of Egyptian symbology and symbols were adopted in Masonic rituals. Also, we evolved from stonemason guilds. What is one of the most famous examples of stone masonry? The pyramids. Um, His grandfather. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm sorry that you're at the hospital for alcohol withdrawal. I hope you're talking to people and getting help and support, and maybe staying away from alcohol. Yeah, a lot of times grandfathers that will happen. A lot of time grandfathers will do that. Um, Unfortunately, Was, when you say esoteric knowledge, I mean we have the knowledge of what we call modes of recognition, but I mean you have esoteric knowledge as well, Was, right? Like, would you give me your bank information? Would you give me your social insurance number? Right? Would you give me your address? And by the way, please don't. But you could argue that's esoteric knowledge as well, right? In that you're keeping it hidden. There's many different valuable reasons to keep information hidden. Um, Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's for safety, sometimes it's about maintaining the bonds of brotherhood or relationships. The example I always use, WASS, is if you had a family recipe that was passed down from your grandparents to your parents to you, you're going to pass it down to your kids. You're not going to share the knowledge of the recipe on the internet, not because you're trying to um, hide anything or use that knowledge against the world, but because by maintaining the privacy of the knowledge of the recipe, you maintain the bonds of you maintain the generational bonds between yourself and your family members, past and future generations. Mark or Mario knows it's good. Well, maybe it's time to put in another application. Maybe the fact that you found this stream is a sign from the Supreme Being that you should put in your application again. Who knows? Or if you changed your mind, maybe you put in an application, decided you weren't interested, and still feel you're not interested, which is perfectly fine then. Either way, I'm happy that you're here. Please hit like and subscribe. Um, oh, that sucks that your identity was stolen. That's a pain in the butt. I know a few people who got their pain in the butt, who have got their identity stolen. Absolute pain in the butt. So they do not. Freemasonry is not Jewish. Freemasonry welcomes Jewish people. We've had many Jewish members, and certainly Freemasonry borrowed from Jewish traditions. It also borrowed from Christian, Muslim architecture, Egyptian mysticism, all sorts of Stoic philosophy, all sorts of different organizations and beliefs and philosophies. Chinese mythology, for that matter. I do not. I think one of the Rothschilds, at least, was a Freemason, though I don't know for sure. And Skull and Crossbones is a whole different organization. I think you're thinking of the Skull and Bones, which is out of Yale. And Freemasonry is also not a gang. By the way, to everybody here, please take a moment, hit that like, subscribe button, consider doing a super chat. I'll be back on at 1 p.m. Eastern to talk more about Freemasonry. That's when I have my specific topics. So, Alonzo Tarantino, welcome, Alonzo. Thank you for being here. I think you're new to the stream. I don't recognize seeing your name before. What are your thoughts on? I mean, everybody, you do you. I have no thoughts on that. I'm going to leave that up to the individual to decide what their personal thoughts are on that. What are my views on DMT? Somebody asked. I'm not personally a fan. I've never used DMT. I don't use really any substances other than I drink way too much caffeine and I have medication as subscribed. I think so long, whatever you're doing, whether it's DMT or anything else, if you're doing it under doctor's, recommendation and with proper, careful kind of whatever, if you're doing it properly and safely with a doctor as part of a therapy, then I'm comfortable with it, but I'm not comfortable with it for recreational use. Mario knows it's good. Would you suggest sure. I mean, I think really whether Hispanic, you can join Prince Hall, you can join AF and AM. What I would say is it's better to the focus should be on where you think you'd be most comfortable because those are where you'll be spending your time. So you could even talk to both Prince Hall and AF and AM and just ask, get to know both lodges. Go out for dinner with them, go out for coffee with them, and you decide from there where you want to go, right? It really is up to you. But I think Prince Hall is a wonderful organization, an excellent part of what it is to be a Freemason, an excellent part of our Masonic history. So, yeah, that would be my opinion on that. Well, Alonzo with the advice. I have no opinion on that. There are some things I'm not equipped to talk about on this stream, so. Well, I've never seen How to Catch a Predator, any season, nor any episode, but you 8048 can hit the like and subscribe button, and it would be much appreciated. Somebody did. I forget who it was, but somebody asked me what my opinion was on DMT. So I do understand for some people it's been very helpful as a therapeutic, but in those cases, I think so long as it's being taken with a doctor's advice, it's okay. My cat is Bandit. All right, we're going to be ending this stream soon. These streams, again, the 1 a.m. streams usually just go for an hour. I just hang out and chat with people and see what they want to talk about. So yeah, let's give it a few. That was NYC. Now I live in Georgia. There's some alleged conflict. I've not heard of that. That would make me sad if that's the case, because Freemasonry is for men of all different ethnicities and backgrounds and faiths. So I can't say to what conflict you're referring in Georgia. I don't think that's the case, anyways. I mean, I've been to Masonic lodges in Georgia, and it was white men and black and members of different races. So, I mean, I could have missed something. I hope that's not the case, though, because it shouldn't be. Having said that, the important thing to keep in mind is, as you kind of point out, Freemasonry is jurisdictional. That means that, the rules and governance in Georgia is different than the rules in Ontario, in Texas, in New York, right, et cetera, et cetera. There are Masons in British Columbia. There's a lot of Masons in British Columbia. And I'm sure they would love to hear from you. Now, it depends what part of British Columbia you're in. I don't know if it's in every town. I know it's in Vancouver, Victoria. Very true, Viking Fitness. I mean, I don't know. There are many Masonic lodges in BC, though. I know that. Um, Yo, 420. I wouldn't say Mormonism is superior to Freemasonry, nor would I say it's inferior. They're different things, right? They're different organizations. Mormonism is a religion. It was founded by a person who was a Freemason, but they're trying to do different things, right? Religions like Mormonism are about spiritual salvation. Freemasonry is not about that. It's not a religion. It's about something very different. Um, and so it's not about being superior or inferior. It's just about being something that is different. It has different aims and different goals, which is one of the beautiful things about it, to be honest. So, um, one of the things I think I love most about Freemasonry is the fact that it is a civic institution and welcomes men of all different faiths and all different religions. Definitely not that, yo, 420. Freemasonry is not about political influence. In fact, within Freemasonry, we are not allowed to discuss politics while in lodge. I mean, I think to the extent that having any civic organization strengthens a community's civic bonds, which means the political situation, I think, will be better. But I mean, we would never in Freemasonry tell members who to or not to vote for example. Right. I think you're getting confused civil and civic. Civil is about political relationships and the way the state interacts with the people. Civic institutions are the way community members interact with each other. Hello, Crystal Lynn Dawn Day Chief. Thank you for being here. But think about it as a civic institution, which means not about political influence, but about strengthening the community bonds between members therein. Um, well, never, because we don't do satanic rituals. So I'm very sorry to disappoint you. But what you can do is hit the like and subscribe button. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Especially because I'm one sub away from 2,920 subs. I'm getting close to 3,000 subs. Maybe I can make it there by the end of the year. Who knows? That would be incredible. Yes, unifying people across all different lines, men who would normally be at perpetual distance. Um, well, thank you, Alonzo. I appreciate that very much. Um, they actually talk about that in the Anderson Constitutions, which I love. Men that would normally be at a perpetual distance are brought together. I think that's really, really cool. So, um, well, I don't know if it takes a lot of strength, Mario. I appreciate the question. I mean, for me, because I want to maintain the bonds of brotherhood, it's not about strength. It's just I recognize the importance of maintaining the privacy of certain elements of Freemasonry. So I don't like it when people jump to conclusions about almost anything intrinsic truths. I think one of the biggest mistakes we can make is jumping to conclusions. Very bad thing to do. So for me, Mark or Mario, it's just because I recognize why it's important to maintain those secrets. And that gives me the strength to do so. Um, and it just said now 2,920. So 80 to more to go. Until I'm at 3,000. So I'm almost there. Thank you, everybody, for all of the help and all of the support. All right, guys, it's been a blast. I'm going to end this stream, but I will be back on tomorrow at 1 p.m., so in about 11 hours. All right, I'll talk to everybody later. Have an excellent. No, not like Aleister Crowley. Beyond Ether, cheers, peace. There's no magic in Freemasonry, other than I mean, it's going to sound cheesy, but the magic of brotherly love, for whatever that's worth. All right, guys, thank you so much, and have an excellent night.